In the mid-60s, when the missionaries got to my village, one of the villages in northeast Nigeria, they started a primary school for the children of the village. But the elders of the village decided that girls were not to be part of the primary school education. And the missionaries accepted to work in the village based on the agreement they had with the elders of the village. So boys were part of the primary school, but girls were not part of it. But there was a little girl whose name was Shipi. Shipi was very curious, and she really wanted to be part of this new trend or this new thing that was happening in her village. One morning, Shipi woke up. She did her chores and she ran to the space that has been reserved for the school. She got there and found the boys sitting on the floor and learning, and she was excited. While she was making space to sit on the ground, she heard a voice behind her. Shipi, Shipi, Shipi. She knew whose voice it was. It was her father's. He walked towards her, pulled her by the ears and dragged her home and said to her, "You may never go back there." That was why Shipi didn't get educated. A few years later, Shipi got married to a military man and she moved from the village to Lagos. While Shipi got to Lagos, she was surrounded by young girls who were her age. She was 13 years old, who were allowed to go to school. Young girls her age who were going to school. And she felt very bad that she could not go to school. And she felt like she had been cheated and she had been lied to back home in her village. But Shipi had a new obligation. She was married and she was pregnant. So Shipi vowed to train her children. She vowed to give her children the education that she didn't have. And Shipi was my mother.
Hi, we'd like to tell you a little bit about the Living Learning Community for Leadership Development for African Women. I'm Shelley Chapman, Regional Missionary for World Gospel Mission in Africa, and I'm joined today with Patricia Ali, who is a Nigerian graduate student in Kenya, helping me to develop this program. Thanks, Pat, for being here.
Thank you, Shelley. The program has been life-changing for me.
You're working on your graduate degree at Africa International University. I'm sure she would be so proud of you if she were alive today. This story points to our very deep passion for women in sub-Saharan Africa. Maybe you could speak a little bit to that.
Yeah, it points to how can we engage with women who have lacked formal educational experiences. These women tend to be very wise, tend to be very strong resources for community development. But how do we create space where they can tap into that wisdom and that resilience that they have for their community or law for their children, I would say. And that is why we have this program to create space where rural African, sub-Saharan African women can begin to engage in grassroots processes that can change their lives and their communities.
Yeah, because truth be told, many of these women live in oppression, extreme poverty, and fear of violence by ethnic conflict, violence, domestic violence. And so each day that they get up and live, it's more survival than thriving. And we want to help them, but we know that the traditional ways of helping, like handouts and short-term training and so forth, doesn't go far enough into the deep complexity of the context. And that's why we have thought of creating a living learning community, which follows Jesus' model, really, when he selected 12 disciples and they walked with him and learned with him over a period of 3 years. We're thinking of bringing young African women, like yourself, Pat, together to live with us in community in our same apartment complex, where we can live together and learn together and help them as they work on a master's degree in one of the professions, at the same time to develop the capacity to do grassroots leadership, not to become the big leader. This is not to get a degree and become a big person, but rather how to engage with people in the villages to make a real change. And then they'll have to pay it forward by going back to their village and actually create some kind of project or association or whatever is contextually appropriate to help the women from their village organically create something that will make a difference in their lives. Thank you for your prayers and for your support. Thank you very much.